I want to talk about Selichot, or like kind of give a preview to Selichot, which is tonight. Don't worry, we're not reciting anything. And this talk is going to be about how Selichot awakens us to any missteps that we've made throughout the year, but it's not trying to get us to drown in those mistakes as we recall them. So the basics of Selichot, as most of you may know, or maybe not, maybe it's a little rusty. They're penitential prayers that are recited not just during Elul, but they're also recited on fast days. And the central theme of Selichot is the 13 attributes of mercy, which are attributed to God, and they were created by Maimonides. For the sake of time, I'm not going to go through all 13 of them because I think the meat and potatoes of this is going to be in the Selichot themselves. So I have two nusachot, two minhagim that we're going to be looking at. If we have time, we'll get to the verses that are on the back of the page. I have nusach Ashkenaz minhag lita, which is one of the three minhagim that Ashkenazim use. And then there's also nusach Yidon HaMizrag, or nusach Sfardi, depending on how you pick your labels. And the reason I picked these is because I think the words that they use are fascinating. In the case of our first example, our first source, it opens with a question. How can we open our mouths before you? And the you in this case is the divine. And it's such a fascinating question because when you think about when we ask the divine to open up our mouths, right? There's this line right before the Amidah, Adonai sevatai tiftach ufi yagid b'tilatecha. Oh God, open up my lips so that my mouth may declare your praise. Like, we know the words that we're going to say in that moment, or the words are in front of us. Like, we know what we should be feeling at that time. But here, this question, how can we? Like, why? What makes this time so different than any other time? Anyone? Like, any thoughts as to what, like, why would we open with how can we, rather than us telling God, just open up our mouths and take care of it for us? Yes.
This is Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, the Day of Judgment, part of the process is going to take place in 10 days of repentance, and it's a focus to get to have us be aware that the judge is here, so the judge is coming.
Can you remind me of your name?
I'm Alan.
Alan. Okay, so Alan says, I'm paraphrasing here, that it's because we are counting up to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Like, that's a pretty good answer. There is no wrong answer here, by the way. I want this to be a dialogue, so ask. Yes.
My name is Sima, and building on what Alan said, that it's a very self-driven process. Like, the onus is on us to ask for forgiveness or to kind of initiate the process of getting forgiveness. And so we realize how small we are and how unimportant we are, but we're still asking for this kind of big thing.
Yes, so Sima was building off of what Alan said and is positing that this is a self-driven process. The onus is on us. Did you get like a preview of this before I wrote it? Like, did you see it on? I'm kidding. That is actually a really great point. So I'm going to jump to our second source for a little bit and focus on the first line on the translation. This is the Yidon HaMizrag Selichot, and it says, "O man, why are you sleeping? Arise and call out with supplication." This is, I mean, it's a call, obviously, because it's telling us in the very next sentence, like, call out with supplication. But it's also waking us up to the fact that the ball is very much in our court. we are the only ones who can kind of move this process forward. And the person who, like, not to like anthropomorphize God, but this divine entity that are supposed to be hearing all of our prayers, you have to meet this person halfway, and you also have to meet the people around you halfway. It's one thing to put a post on Facebook saying, to anybody I've wronged this year, I'm sorry, and just leave it at that. Like, that, in my opinion, is not completely doing teshuva. Like, you actually have to go up to people and be like, I messed up. I did X, Y, and Z. I am sorry. I am not going to do these things again. And then it's up to them whether or not they accept that apology. But still, like, you have to either walk up to the person directly, or you have to send that email, or you have to call that person, all of which are very intimidating things. So any thoughts thus far? It is very hard to do.
We have to know before whom we stand. We have to know, and everybody may have a different idea. I know I have my own idea of who God is, how I'm relating to him. I think that's important in this context. I have an idea.
Can you remind me of your name? Bob. Okay. So Bob, I'm paraphrasing again, says we need to know before whom we stand. That is very important. I don't know if anybody has ever used a Koran Siddur, but on the cover, it has the words in Hebrew, like, know before whom you stand, and that's often referring to God. But when it comes to Selichot, and when you are trying to do teshuva and like really apologize, you have to know the person that you're standing before. You have to know what it is you've done to them in order for the teshuva to be effective. You also have to go into it knowing that they may not forgive you. So, any other thoughts? Yes, Marissa.
So I just wanted to go back to the opening line here. Oh man, why are you sleeping? And the implication is that for most of the year, we're going through it asleep. We're not paying attention to our actions. And that's what we have to do right now, is to wake up and be attentive to what we've done and really think about, you know, if you got into an argument with someone, what was it about? What was it really about? Did you slight someone? You know, and I think that's what Selichot is about, is a real intentional evaluation of what you've done.
So Marissa said that it's like maybe we're asleep at the wheel throughout the whole year. Like, we don't know that if we've done X, Y, and Z things. And in order to be intentional, you have to wake up. Am I paraphrasing that right?
I think so.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Before I move on, does anybody, oh, yes, Ellen.
There's a process that takes place. When Elul comes around, we start saying Psalm 27, which is something to focus on our attention of what's taking place. When starting with the second day of Rosh Chodesh of Elul, we hear the shofar being blown at the end of the morning, at the end of Shachrit. So we begin to hear the process of the shofar. That's what says, okay, we've got a month, we've got the process, let's begin. We put it off, let's begin to focus. But some people still put things off more and more and more. All of a sudden, the Selichot comes around, and that becomes, in many places, some of the tunes for the Rosh Hashanah, or the Yamim Noraim are included in Selichot. And you get a sense of, okay, yes, I remember this. Oh, Selichot is here. That means it's 4 days or it's 10 days. It's a very short period of time before Selichot, before Rosh Hashanah is going to be. This is my wake-up call. It's not too late. I need to get going to do the tshuva, tefillah, and tzedakah that will avert the severity of this.
So Bob said that this whole process especially as we go throughout the month of Elul, is, well, I mean, it's a process. And it's a wake-up call that our time is kind of shortening to really do the things that we need to. And building off of that, as someone with anxiety and ADHD, there are times where I have a tendency to put things off, and the longer I put them off, the more the anxiety builds. Selichot is a way, to me, like in my view, of like trying to lessen that anxiety, especially for the people who are like, I can totally put this off, I can totally put this off, and then the next thing you know, Rosh Hashanah is a week away, and then everybody's panicking. It's a reminder that yes, time is short. However, you don't have to let it overwhelm you. You have these wake-up calls. You know, you are asking God, how can I open up my mouth? And then Selichot reminds you, you're kind of doing that. You've taken the first step. Now you just have to keep walking and doing the things that you need to do before the high holidays get here. And even once they get here, you know, you got some time until the gates close.
I just want to jump off of what Alan shared. This also, I think, when looking at these two different nusachot, that we recognize that people deal with this time differently, right? That when we start to read Psalm 27, we recognize within the psalm itself that there are many different ways that we acknowledge this time of awe. And here too, right, one person needs to be kind of urged to open up their mouths, the other person needs to just be told, you should probably get out of bed, but words don't seem to be the problem for that person. So I think, and also to your point about, you know, people who struggle with different anxieties or challenges that might hinder them wanting to go up to a person and talk about tshuva, which, by the way, I think we all have in different shapes and forms. This shows us that we might need different things as people, but also in any given year, we might need something different. We might need to be woken up one year, and another year we might need to be told, actually, you do have words to share, you know, go and do it.
So Rabbi Schatz was building off what Alan was saying, that different people have different responses and different needs, especially when this time of year comes. Some people may have trouble finding the words, and other people just need to be told, get up out of bed, you got to do the thing. I like that.
Really, the microphone thing goes for Alan also.
Your words are not
They can
replicable.
pass it back and forth.
I'm feeling the pressure. There's a very different tone to the first different slichot that you shared with us. The first one sort of gives you very little. In other words, think of the way in which it's describing us and increasing the gap with God, increasing it dramatically. How can we speak to you, God? Look at how miserable we are. Not miserable suffering, but how miserable human beings we are. And that should essentially mean, you know, push against it. The second one is essentially saying, wake up. And it presents a God who's ready to have compassion. And it's telling us again all the ways in which we can come close. So one is inviting and one is off-putting. And that's a dramatic difference between the tone. And then a dramatic, you know, if you read the first one very seriously and you take the identification with what type of human being we are, then we really can't talk to God. We might as well give up and just go home. The second one is calling forth something from us to wake up, come closer, and the like, and God will greet us again. Hu yirachem aleinu k'rachem av al banim. He'll have mercy on us the way in which someone who is bound to us by a father to son has compassion, has mercy. Well, that's much easier to go to. So think of the human being described in the first one, and even again, and the destruction of the temple means that we have no other way to please God, because look what miserable human beings we are. So if you took that seriously, go home.
That's a good point. Which, yes, I have time. We can get to the next set of verses, or the next set of sources, because I think your point ties in really well. The first Selichot that is listed does create distance, and it kind of sets up this environment where, in trying to even think about doing teshuvah, can be so overwhelming that we just drown in the anxiety of it. But as Aika and Yoel both remind us, there is still a chance to go closer to the divine. Yes, it's hard to think about your past mistakes, and it's hard to go up to the person that you've wronged and say that I'm sorry and that I did all of these things to you. But you're not supposed to dwell forever in that. You are supposed to remember that there is compassion in the world. You are a vehicle for that compassion. You are a vehicle of the greater compassion that is the divine. You are tied to the people around you. You have these connections. And you're not so far gone in whatever you've done that you are distant forever. At least that's my view of it. Any thoughts? Yes, Ellen. I don't know where the mic went.
It's right here.
There's an approach that I was taught many years ago about what we need, what's one of the things that we can do for the Yamim Noraim. It says that, and this is part of meditation that was taking place and connecting with people. And it was the sense that when we go into the world, it may be before Rosh Hashanah, it may be 51% justice, 49% mercy. By going through our actions and going through tshuva and going through the process of reconnecting with people and trying and repenting for our sins in a meaningful way, that we can go and change it to 51% mercy and 49% justice. There's always going to be justice or things that are going to be difficult. There are always things that, when we talk about in the Unatana Tokef, there was like one translation that says that tshuva, that repentance and prayer and righteousness, or tzedakah, will avert the severe decree. That was a translation that was in the old Silverman Machzor, and that's an erroneous translation. It's ro'ah hagzerah, means it averts the severity of the decree. The decree is always going to be there, but how we react to it, how we're able to connect, that's up to us, and how we're going to deal with other people, with ourselves, and with God.
I like that a lot. And it makes me think about how, my background as a former Catholic, where guilt is kind of everywhere and you beat yourself up all the time. And as my mother says, we are our own worst critics. And the point of teshuvah is not to criticize us so much, perform self-criticism, be so self-critical, that's better, that we are just lost in it, that we consider it to be, as it says in Aicha, misery, wormwood, poison, all of these terrible things. It's doing teshuva is to make us better people. We shouldn't be so afraid of what's at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. Like, we shouldn't be so afraid of the decree that's coming. We need to be worried about what's in front of us right now. We need to be worried about ourselves and the people around us. Yeah. Any final thoughts? Because I think I'm running out of time. I do? Ooh, okay. Got 10 minutes. Any thoughts or questions, please?
So about making it up to people, which was your final thought there, I'm thinking about this thing that I heard, which is that at least according to one mystical tradition, the reason Elul is so named is that it's actually an acronym for Ani Ledodi Vedodi Li, which is, if anyone does not know, traditionally recited during the sharing of rings at a wedding ceremony. And so through that lens, you can sort of focus this idea, and I'm using the Edot HaMizrach Selichot, of asking, have I treated my beloved, whether that's a spouse or a friend or Hashem, as this mystical tradition asserts, Hashem's love for the Jewish people is the source for that acronym. Have I comported myself in the best ability? And unless you're the Adam Gadol of Adam Gadols, the answer is going to be no. You can feel less bad that you might have fallen short because the season allows for that long reflection. Yeah.
That's a great point. And it's also viewing Elul as an acronym for Ani Dodi Vidodi Li is a way to kind of bridge that gap, right? Like Rabbi Berenbaum said, this first Selichot, that's listed as a source, does create a lot of distance. The second one closes that distance. And when you have Dodi Li as the backdrop, it's kind of like the ring, the ropes for a boxing ring. You know what I'm talking about, I think, where there's this tension always within the ring, but those ropes keep you inside. They make sure that you don't fall out completely or you don't get too hurt. So, great point. Thank you, Brian. I know that Alan had.
I think one of the things that helps us get going is looking at Psalm 27. And there are incredible things in here, but there are references throughout through Truah, one of the shofar sounds is referred to, Sukkot, and this is traditionally said through Hoshana Rabbah. There's a sense with Chaneni V'Aneni, which we say, may God, have kindness over us and take care of us. And it ends, in the very end, it says, Lulei Ha'amanti. And I think the essence of what we need to do before the Yamim Noam is do tshuva, to do that cheshbon hanefesh, what's going on in our thoughts and our minds, and to be able to change ourselves, to be able to go through the process, to be able to work on ourselves, make changes, and contact people we have harmed, and do these things. At the very end, what does it say? Lulei ha'amanti. Lulei, if only ha'amanti. And you can translate it as, if only I would have believed, if only I would have done this. And it's very appropriate to be read right now, because when you read the word lulei backwards, it spells Elul. So Elul becomes the time for us to be able to focus on the past and to be able to do tshuva and be able to, in essence, as Rav Soloveitchik says, tshuva is as an act of creation, self-creation.
Thank you, Alan. Oh,
It's okay, just
Okay.
start speaking.
So, getting back to what you started with when you said that it's not just enough to say I'm sorry for everything I've done to all of you kind of thing on Facebook. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I wholeheartedly agree with a blanket apology just not cutting it. In fact, if you're sometimes if someone refuses, the way I look at it too is that if someone absolutely refuses to apologize for what they did to you, think of it as the lesser of two evils. By which I mean, no apology is better than a fake one. Like the Al Hate and the Yom Kippur liturgy back me up on that with the Al Hate vidui peh, insincere confession. An example which is saying you're sorry when you don't mean it. So in other words, it's better not to say sorry at all than to say it and when you don't mean it.
yeah, that's a great point. Because also, if you say an apology and you don't mean it, you've lied. So you've done the opposite of a mitzvah when you do that. Exactly. I want to jump back to Alan's point really quick about acknowledging that we are capable of change, because that kind of brings me to the thing that's in brackets in the title page where it says not drowning in them being our missteps. Knowing what we are capable of, I think, is a great way of something that can pull us away from the edge. Because I think, as we know from experience, like all of this can be really, really scary, whether you're doing it for the first time or the 50th time or even longer. But knowing that you have the capability to change and be a better person, that you are not so far gone, is a great way to just come up for air and breathe for a second and kind of, remember that you're still on the earth. You can still do lots and lots of things. You have a great deal of power to create real good. You just have to do it. Any other thoughts? Yes, Alan. Where'd the mic go?
I've got 1 minute just to share one final thought, because I may not be around next Shabbat. I may not be able to see you before Rosh Hashanah. And so I want to wish everyone Shana Tova, that it should be a good year. But what does it really mean to have Shana Tova, a good year? The word Shana is related to the Hebrew word Mishnah, which literally means repetition, because that's how the Tanaim, the rabbis of the Mishnah, transmitted the oral law. It wasn't written down, so it had to be repeated. But the shorish shin nun hey is the shorish for the word lishanot, shinui, change. So when you wish someone Shana Tova, what you're really doing is wishing them a year of repeating of Mishnah, of repeating the good things, and of shinui, of changing the not so good things. And when you can do that, it can truly be a Shana Tova.
That was fantastic.
That was
And
the
a
second
great
time I heard it, and it gets better each time.
Thank you.
Sermon slam suit Ashley Sheet. Okay, go ahead, Adrian. You get the last word.
Yeah, no, I was just saying thank you for engaging in this with me. You've all had such wonderful insight that I'm storing into my memory banks, and I'll probably riff off of it next Elul.